Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cameron Okowski, and it is my great privilege to welcome you to the challenge ceremony of the 29th Annual National Character and Leadership Symposium. The NCLS team would like to take one final opportunity to express our thanks to the generous partners and supporters who make this event possible. The United States Air Force Academy, class of 1959, our flagship sponsor, the class of 1973, the class of 1974, the class of 1977, the class of 1993, the Association of Graduates, the Air Force Academy Foundation, the Falcon Foundation, the Muse Family Foundation, Lieutenant Colonel Retired Earl A. Enix, class of 1977, and Miss Candy Enix, the Defense Orientation Conference Association, and other generous donors. Before we begin, it is my honor to introduce the first ever presentation of the Sullenberger Award for Courage. Ambassador Chesley Soley Sullenberger, class of 1973, explains further in this video.
Hi, I'm Sully Sullenberger of the class of 1973. I want to let you know of a new award to be bestowed by the Academy and the Association of Graduates, the Sullenberger Award for Courage. It will not be given out yearly, only when warranted, and will recognize graduates who demonstrate a singular significant achievement, an exemplary performance during a singular act or a series of events in a short duration of time. The core values we develop at the Academy, service above self, excellence in all we do, and integrity, together with training, prepare us for unexpected challenges in life. We never know if or when we might be faced with an ultimate challenge. This award will honor those who meet the moment. It was my experience and education here at the Academy that enabled me to quickly spring into action when I faced a challenge of a lifetime in 2009. It is our warrior ethos, our core values, that this award will embody. Thank you, and enjoy NCLS.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great privilege to present Ambassador Chesley Soley Sullenberger, class of 1973, who will announce this year's award recipient and the many merits which resulted in the selection. Presenting the award with Ambassador Sullenberger is our United States Air Force Academy Superintendent, Lieutenant General Richard M. Clark. Lieutenant Colonel Pelbath, please join us on stage for the award presentation. Sir, we invite you to speak.
Thank you.
Sir, here, why don't, do you want to speak at the podium, sir?
I'll do this. Is this better? Oh, good. We'll do it this way. How do I bridge a gap of over half a century? That was the question I asked myself for this event. I think the answer is pretty easy, though. Believe it or not, in spite of how I look now, I was once young. Once I was sitting where you are, and I guarantee you I was feeling the same things you're feeling now, thinking the same things you're thinking now, and wondering. I was wondering what the future would hold for me. I was wondering what my life would be. So really the major difference between you and me right now is that I now have the answers to those questions. But you will too, sooner than you realize. This place holds great memories, good and bad. And I want to tell you about them. I'm very fortunate to be here with you. I've always wanted to fly. And what better way to fly than at the United States Air Force Academy? And I remember vividly my very first day at the Academy. Fresh out of high school, on Monday, June 23rd, 1969, just after the height of the Vietnam War. On that first day, there were 1,406 of us who, if we were successful, would graduate 4 years later as the class of 1973. 844 of us would. And on that first day, we'd had our hair cut and been handed a stack of uniforms, and the training and indoctrination had begun. It was obvious to us that we had encountered a system designed to change us, to challenge us, to tear us away from the comfortable, the easy, the familiar. It was designed to reset our priorities, to refocus our perspectives, to convince us that if we worked hard and worked together, we could accomplish things we did not know we could. And we were going to find inner reserves of strength we did not know we had. We would soon know it could no longer be about me. Instead, it was going to be about us. And so we learned important values, values I've taken with me my entire life. Integrity, courage, compassion. You know, my wife, Lori, and I are very proud of our now adult daughters, almost in their 30s. And they have the kind of values, the core values that we all must have, and that we owe to each other as citizens. You know, they are smart, strong, determined young women who have courage and compassion to take out into the world. You know, some have said that it must be because I have daughters that I care about what women's lives are like. Well, they're wrong. In fact, I take issue with those who seem to behave as if they must have a really close relationship with a woman in order to care about women. You see, my perspective is different. I care about what happens to half the population of this planet, not because I once had a mother, not because I'm married to my wife, not because I happen to be the father of daughters, but because I'm human. And I think that's a big part of what it means to be a man. And as we work in large groups like the United States Air Force, we must remember that we have more in common than divide us. I think the reason we sometimes forget that is sometimes the differences are more apparent. The things we all have in common don't seem as apparent, but they're there, and they matter the most. I also learned at the Academy and since the importance of and the power of leadership by personal example, by trying to live, trying to embody these important traits. I'm reminded that one of my Academy classmates, a fellow fighter pilot and later fellow airline pilot, 12 and a half years ago, finally lost his battle with cancer. His widow asked me to speak at his memorial service, which of course I was honored to do. And one of the things I said about Chris was that he was one of those exceptional people who lived his life in such a way that his values were apparent. You see, he didn't have to tell you what he believed or have a sign on his desk or a poster on the wall or wear a T-shirt emblazoned with a slogan. Because if you spent enough time around him and if you paid attention, you knew everything about him that you needed to know. You see, he was one of those rare people who not only had real core values, but he lived his life trying to make them real on a daily basis. And so I'm trying to live up to Chris's example. Now, after the academy experience, I became an Air Force fighter pilot, the pinnacle of tactical military aviation. Words almost fail me trying to explain to you what it's like and what it takes. Suffice it to say that we're trained to a high standard. Our skills and knowledge are honed to a razor's edge. But you haven't seen leadership and teamwork until you've led a formation of 4 jet fighters at 100 feet above the ground at 600 knots, covering a nautical mile every 6 seconds, traveling just over 1,012 feet per second. Even in peacetime in that environment, sometimes success and failure of life and death is measured in seconds and feet. But it's after the flight, in the debriefing, where the learning really occurs, where we, leaders and followers alike, hold each other accountable to the same high standards, and in brutally honest exchanges talk about what worked and what didn't and why. But most important, what we can do better next time. And so that kind of diligence and dedication to excellence and continuous learning is what I call the fighter pilot ethos that I've taken with me throughout my career, including as an airline pilot. And that's critically important. And that's one thing that's critical to aviation safety. Here's a little tidbit you might find interesting in terms of inclusiveness and diversity. In 2014, there was a study that was done of Army aviation. And even though women made up 10% of aviators in the Army aviation field, a crew that involved at least one woman was involved in only 3 out of every 10 accidents. So 3 out of every 100 accidents. So maybe inclusiveness keeps us safer. As I became an airline pilot, I had a chance every week to practice leadership. At large airlines, we fly all the time with people we've never seen before, complete strangers, because airlines have gotten so big. There may be 15,000 pilots and 50,000 flight attendants. So we have to meet strangers for the very first time, going to work for a week of flying, never knowing if it'll be tomorrow or next week or never, that we might suddenly face some ultimate challenge of a lifetime. So if you found yourself in that situation, meeting your team for the first time, how would you engage them? What would you say to them? How would you prepare them? How would you take a team of experts and help them make themselves an expert team? And those are different skills, team skills. So the way you do it is once the introductions are made, you set the tone. The leader sets the tone, creates an environment, a culture in which we're all able and willing to do our best work. And we talk about some safety and security specifics, but we make it so the captain, no matter how senior he or she is approachable. We flatten the hierarchy to an appropriate level. We open channels of communication, encourage input. We tell each other that we not only want to hear news, even if it's bad, we need to hear it. Because there's really no such thing as bad news. The only bad news is news that's not acted upon effectively in a timely fashion. We try to create also a shared sense of responsibility among all the team members for the outcome. And when you do that, it's amazing what you accomplish. And that's what we did in 2009. Our flight landed in Hudson River on a Thursday afternoon at 3:31 p.m. I met our first officer and 2 of the flight attendants for the first time ever on Monday of that week. And yet, had you been allowed to sit in the observer seat in our cockpit on that flight to the river and watch us work together, not that you would really have wanted to be there at that seat with us, I guarantee you, You would have thought that Jeff and I have been working together like that for years, because we knew our roles and responsibilities so well, because our skills were honed to a razor's edge, because we had the same goals, the same values, the same purpose. And so this is my message to you, is no matter what you're doing, no matter what organization you're in, if you want to be successful and inclusive, it will be when you all share the same values, share the same purpose, and share the same common humanity. Good luck and good flying. Thank you for your time and your attention. And before we go, I want to tell you a little bit more about Colonel Pelbath and why he is such a worthy recipient for this award. It's a great honor to have an award named in my honor, and it's a great award honor to be able to present that to Colonel Pelbath, as I have. It's also important that you know that this is the first recipient of the Sullenberger Award for Courage, and it was because in August 2021, during Operation Allied Refuge, Colonel Pelbath and his team were part of the Afghan evacuation, with Pelbath leading 18 missions in and out of Kabul, Afghanistan. His leadership and bravery contributed to the successful evacuation of an estimated 14,000 Afghan refugees, 79,000 of whom were airlifted on C-17s. Lieutenant Colonel Alex Pelbath faced a dangerous and ambiguous situation and, rising beyond duty, quickly made the critical decisions under great pressure to preserve countless lives. He is unimpeachably worthy of this award. And so that's why I'm so grateful that he is here to receive it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you'd have told me 20 years ago, sitting in your seat, I'd be doing this, I would have said you're crazy. That's that moment right there. I don't think I'm ever going to forget that moment. Thank you. I just want to say a couple of things about this award. First, thank you to NCLS, the Academy, General Clark, and of course Ambassador Sullenberger. You know, anybody who's spent any time in a cockpit knows what a tremendous feat Sully Sullenberger's flight was in 2009. I know we all know the story, but if you've ever actually been at the controls of an airplane, it almost boggles the mind how tremendous of an accomplishment that was. What we did in Afghanistan was tremendous, and I don't think it compares to what Ambassador Sullenberger went through. The second thing is I found myself in a position to be leading some tremendous airmen out there. I had on that final night with me going into Afghanistan 5 aircrew. Some tremendous leaders, some tremendous pilots, enlisted aircrew as well. And I'm proud to accept this award on behalf of all of them who are there with me. And then lastly, if you think of this award in the future, I hope you'll remember one thing. I hope you'll remember the 13 Americans who gave their lives in last August so that 125,000 Afghan refugees could experience the freedom that only America provides. Thank you very much.
It is now my privilege to present our closing video, which contains many highlights from the past few days. As we conclude NCLS 2022, we'd like to thank our audience for fully participating over the past 2 days. Being willing to think about and discuss difficult and often uncomfortable topics leads to both personal and professional growth. We've heard life-changing stories of compassion, vulnerability, inclusion, and breaking down barriers. We've listened to men and women talk about why inclusion matters, why it's important to understand and learn from history, and how we can come together with mutual respect to ensure all people's voices are heard. Hearing stories of bravery and risking lives to save lives and create change inspired us all. We learned that leaders of character must embody ethics and respect for human dignity in both their personal and professional lives. From lessons in leadership taught by a Special Olympian who showed us that we can beat the odds. Teams who charge into horrible situations to rescue those in harm's way. A hearing-impaired comedian. A Pulitzer Prize-winning author on a mission to breathe new life into historical events. 2 previously incarcerated men who were given a second chance, and a young boy with the odds stacked against him who became a neurosurgeon. We have heard stories of bravery, perseverance, leadership, and compassion. We were privileged to spend time with military leaders, best-selling authors, athletes, and men and women from around the world.
Our main mission and our main focus is about developing leaders of character.
Nothing is more lethal than providing people an excuse for failing.
It's choice, not chance, that changes your life.
So keep working on change, because it won't happen if you sit back and wait for somebody else to take change for you.
We do have problems, but we get to make a choice. We get to decide whether we want to build our future on the progress that we've made or on the mistakes that were made.
That it's service that turns the lights on. It's service that brings you the solutions, the creativity, the optimism, the courage to stand up to a guy who's 3 times your size.
We do not leave the symposium the same people we were when it started. We cannot hear these extraordinary stories and not be somehow changed. Let us step forward with a greater understanding of ethics and respect for human dignity. Let us put into practice our comprehension of moral knowledge and ethical alternatives and respect the dignity of all persons. As we become leaders of character, striving to live honorably, lift others to their best possible selves, and elevate the performance of our teams. Let us always remember these 2 days as an experience of reflection and growth, while we continue the conversation through integration into cadet coursework and learning from leaders who will challenge our way of thinking. We reflect with gratitude on these past 2 days. We invite you to join us again next year for NCLS 2023, where we will explore the theme of leadership, teamwork, and organizational management. If you were inspired by our speakers this year and have someone in mind who would be a great fit for next year's symposium, please go to the Air Force Academy's NCLS homepage and nominate a speaker through the Speaker Nominations link. Thank you again for your commitment to growing leaders of character at the United States Air Force Academy. Fortunately, this year has allowed us to attend the National Character and Leadership Symposium in person. And the NCLS team would like to say thank you to all of those who made it possible. With the universally applicable theme of ethics and respect for human dignity, I am confident that the messages we heard resonated with us and will lead us to action as we become more empathetic of those around us. We are so glad that you were able to join us for this amazing opportunity, and we hope that you will continue to have impactful conversations beyond this week's events. At this time, I want to take a moment to thank the amazing team of faculty, staff, and cadets who worked together to make this event a grand success. If you directly supported NCLS, will you please take a second to stand to be recognized? Thank you. We encourage you to mark your calendars for the 30th anniversary of NCLS, which will take place on the 23rd and 24th of February, 2023. As we intentionally continue the conversation from this year's theme, we are also very excited to prepare for next year's theme, Leadership, Teamwork, and Organizational Management. In preparation for this monumental 30th anniversary event, the NCLS team would like to extend an opportunity for you to recommend speakers for next year. If you would like to nominate a 2023 NCLS speaker, please go to the posted QR code or nominate a speaker on the NCLS event app. Finally, before you depart, we would greatly appreciate your feedback. You may access the NCLS survey via the posted QR code at the iPad station in the Arnold Hall foyer or on the NCLS event app. A survey link will also be sent out to your registered email addresses. So this concludes our NCLS 2022. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.